Hello guys, welcome back to our anime moment. Guys, please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Today is explanation of Martial Universe Season 6 Part 16 based on novel. So let's start. While Lin Dong sealed himself within the inner sanctum of the Green Dragon Palace to cultivate, as anticipated, the endless ancient battlefield fell into a period of fighting and extreme chaos. Various treasure troves were gradually excavated and precious soul treasures, pills and even martial arts started to circulate. Within the ancient battlefield, the demand for these items exceeded the supply. Hence, they inevitably drew many coveting gazes. Thus, fights for these items were difficult to avoid. The various empires similarly invested a great deal of effort due to the appearance of these treasures. The fragile alliances between different groups were practically worthless under the allure of such treasures. Everyone wanted to obtain treasures because every person who was able to reach the ancient battlefield was not an ordinary individual. Likewise, their ambitions could not be compared to any ordinary folk. Each person desired to distinguish themselves in the 100 Empire War, in hopes of catching the eye of the super sects, allowing oneself to be akin to the cart that jumps through the Dragon Gate and completely change one's life. It is clear that these treasures that had originated from the treasure troves were a rather good shortcut to becoming even more powerful, and many did not plan on giving up on such a seemingly easily obtainable shortcut. And so, fights for these treasures were inevitable. As the various empires fiercely contested for these treasures, the entire ancient battlefield was filled with smoke. In the presence of this practically explosive atmosphere, more and more practitioners started to emerge and reveal their prowess. Amongst them, there were no lack of renowned practitioners from the high-ranked empires. Of course, there were also quite a few characters that had suddenly appeared from nowhere. These characters mostly consisted of the type who had by some stroke of luck obtained the inheritances of the treasure troves, and were all rather powerful. Hence, they could be regarded as sparkling dark horses. Chaos and struggles would eventually result in elimination. Likewise, they would also cause those remarkable characters to reveal their strength. The current ancient battlefield has truly reached its climax. After half a year of silence, every practitioner started to utilize all kinds of means to become people that were the focus of everyone's attention. While the entire ancient battlefield turned incomparably chaotic and explosive, a dazzling Pearl River quietly flowed in the space within the depths of the ancient treasure trove, endlessly emitting an astonishing Nirvana chi. An alternating black and white striped light cocoon surrounded by black and white halos floated in the Pearl River. Not even the slightest bit of Nirvana chi existed within a 100-meter radius of the halos. It was as if the Nirvana chi here was extremely fearful of that particular area. Two completely different scenes appeared within the halos. One was full of life and vitality, while the other was shrouded in a thick aura of death, so much so that even space itself had become dull and grey. Life and death. Two unique energies that controlled the cycle of heaven and earth continuously produced various marvelous sights. Within the light cocoon was naturally little Martin, who was in the process of creating a flesh and blood body. Ever since it had swallowed the samsara pill, it had spent an entire 3 months inside the light cocoon. In these 3 months, besides the light cocoon growing larger and larger, nothing else had occurred. No one knew what was happening within it due to the life and death chi lingering around the cocoon. However, the increasingly potent life and death chi around the light cocoon indicated that there was nothing to worry about. All in all, things were going rather smoothly for little Martin. On a cultivation platform several hundred feet from the black and white light cocoon, a figure silently sat like a meditating old monk. Waves of enormous devouring power continuously spread forth from his body. In the face of this devouring power, the surrounding vigorous Nirvana chi endlessly poured into Lin Dong's body. This speed would cause onlookers to feel completely amazed. 3 months. Lin Dong had spent practically every waking moment in the past 3 months painstakingly cultivating on this cultivation platform, and it was evident that his progress was rather fruitful. In fact, Lin Dong had already successfully passed the second Nirvana tribulation 2 months prior. Although the second Nirvana tribulation was more ferocious and berserk than the first, it had felt even more effortless for the Lin Dong, who had tempered his body for half a month within the Sea of Lightning and took the first step in the dragon transformation art. Hence, the second Nirvana tribulation had went so smoothly that even Lin Dong himself was astonished. If news of this matter was made known to others who had passed the Nirvana tribulation, they would only be depressed. Others were terrified of the Nirvana tribulation and barely managed to survive it after struggling with all their might, yet, when it came to Lin Dong, it was as easy as having a meal. Of course, Lin Dong naturally did not have any time to consider others' feelings. His ease in overcoming the second Nirvana tribulation was due to the inhuman pain he had suffered previously. This body of his, which was far stronger than practitioners of the same cultivation level, was not effortlessly obtained by Lin Dong through some kind of mystical treasure. No matter what, there was always a price to pay. One had to invest in other to obtain returns. This was the path of cultivation. Nirvana chi churned atop the old cultivation platform, while Lin Dong's expression remained as calm as the abyss. The aura given off by his body was several times more powerful compared to 3 months before. He was now a true blue 2 yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. Given his battle power, he would be able to fight evenly against a 3 yuan Nirvana stage practitioner. In a short month of painstaking cultivation, Lin Dong had survived the second Nirvana tribulation. This speed was already rather impressive. However, Lin Dong was not too satisfied with it. Hence, he showed no signs of stopping even after he had passed the second Nirvana tribulation. Instead, he grew even more frenzied because his original goal was to pass the third Nirvana tribulation before he left this place. Lin Dong was not arrogant. He clearly understood the level of those hidden dragons and crouching tigers within the ancient battlefield. The fact that he had a somewhat fortunate encounter meant that others would have very likely met with something even more miraculous. The good luck in the world would never fall solely on him alone. The strength of the 2 yuan Nirvana stage could indeed allow him to turn up his nose on the majority of practitioners. However, if he encountered the powerhouses on the Nirvana rankings, he would barely be able to match up. Thus, before the arrival of the 100 Empire War, he needed to raise his strength to the limit. For him, that limit was enduring the third Nirvana tribulation. Atop the cultivation platform, Lin Dong's breathing slightly intensified as a black hole spread out behind his body. Immediately, the surrounding Nirvana chi once again madly sped towards his body like a torrential rain. The Pill River flowed in the grey space. A stillness that no one could break shrouded the place, and only the occasional sounds from the Pill River brought a sliver of liveliness to this domain. In this kind of place, the concept of time could not be felt. In such a way, another month stealthily passed. While the fires in the ancient battlefield burned bright, the Pill River remained quiet and peaceful. Above the surging Pill River, a scarlet-red Nirvana fire leaped into the air. Suddenly, the entire Pill River violently trembled. Following which, the abundant Nirvana chi started to rush towards the cultivation platform at a shocking speed. In the face of such an amount of Nirvana chi, a faint golden light flowed on the figure within. Seated there like a golden monk, extremely unstable yuan power undulations continuously rippled outwards from the figure's body. The pure golden color that had appeared on Lin Dong's skin was slightly tinged with a strange scarlet red, while the surrounding air grew drier. These unstable undulations was a sign that the Nirvana tribulation was coming. Lin Dong's third Nirvana tribulation had finally arrived after another 3 months. Like a metal to a magnet, the Nirvana chi within the Pill River was drawn over, becoming extremely berserk. With the cultivation platform as its epicenter, the Nirvana chi faintly showed signs of transforming into a storm as plumes of Nirvana fire shuttled back and forth within it. At the center of this enormous storm was Lin Dong's silently seated figure. The current him had a solemn look on his face, and he was no longer as relaxed as when he faced the second Nirvana tribulation. Nirvana tribulations. Each one was more deadly than the previous, and its might would multiply each time. By relying on the power of his body, Lin Dong might be able to easily survive the second Nirvana tribulation. However, if faced with the third Nirvana tribulation, even he would not find it as simple as before. Roar? As the undulations from Lin Dong's body grew increasingly berserk, a low dragon's roar suddenly rang out from within his body. Green light extended outwards, condensing into a layer of green light on his skin. This was the awe-inspiring green dragon skin that could only appear after cultivating the green dragon transformation art. Evidently, to cope with the third Nirvana tribulation, Lin Dong had brought all his cards into play. Now, he wanted to find out exactly how terrifying the third Nirvana tribulation that numerous practitioners feared was. The Scarlet Hurricane was spinning with a terrifying speed above the boundless Pill River. The crazy energy waves that it was releasing were enough to make a 3-yuan Nirvana stage practitioner palpitate with fear. Lin Dong's figure was sitting silently in the middle of that hurricane. His facial expression was incredibly solemn while faintly containing a tinge of nervousness as well. Clearly, even he himself did not dare to be too reckless when dealing with the third Nirvana tribulation. In this world, there were a lot of talented geniuses who had died during these Nirvana tribulations. All these years, Lin Dong had to fight bitterly in order to gain the success that he enjoys today. Therefore, before he becomes the best in the universe, he did not want to join the ranks of those pathetic fallen geniuses. Boom! The hurricane swirled around the training platform. Suddenly, numerous streaks of scarlet Nirvana flames shot out and blasted towards the seated Lin Dong. Originally, Nirvana tribulation is a kind of tribulation that occurred within a practitioner's body. However, as the number of Nirvana tribulations one went through increased, the difficulty of the Nirvana tribulations will increase as well. Take this third Nirvana tribulation for example. Not only would the Nirvana tribulation attack from within one's body, but it would also activate the Nirvana chi between heaven and earth and carry out an attack from the outside. By then, the internal attack and the external attack would coincide, and catch one completely off guard. Right now, Lin Dong was situated in the middle of the Pill River. The Nirvana chi present in the Pill River was extremely dense. As such, the kind of attack from the Nirvana tribulation would be much more stronger and troublesome to deal with. Streaks of scarlet Nirvana flames whizzed downwards like meteors that fell through the sky. Eventually, accompanied by violent energy waves, they collided ruthlessly onto Lin Dong's body. Bang bang! Muffled explosions could be heard repeatedly throughout Lin Dong's body. That kind of scorching heat was corroding Lin Dong's body frantically. However, at this moment, the green dragon skin that was covering Lin Dong's body began to display extraordinary defensive abilities. As the faint green light diffused, it completely isolated the incoming spiraling Nirvana flames from Lin Dong's skin. On the surface, it seemed like Lin Dong was being engulfed by raging Nirvana flames. However, if one was to take a closer look, one would observe that a faint green glow was flickering on Lin Dong's skin. Furthermore, even though the green glow might seem weak, it was actually what kept the Nirvana flames from penetrating Lin Dong's skin. Naturally, Lin Dong knew everything about the external attack. Hence, when he saw the attacking Nirvana flames being stopped completely by the green dragon skin, he silently heaved a sigh of relief. However, soon after, he became anxious once again. That was because he knew that even though the external attacks might be troublesome, he knew that he could handle it. However, the truly thorny matter was the attacks that came from within his body. Lin Dong's attention was focused on scanning the inside of his body. His yuan power was flowing rapidly through his bones and limbs, preparing to come to the aid of any parts of his body that were in trouble at all times. Lin Dong's wait did not last too long before he saw a wisp of black-colored flame appearing mysteriously. Nirvana Demon Flame. When Lin Dong saw this wisp of black-colored flame, his heart contracted firmly. This thing was the most troublesome problem of the third Nirvana tribulation. Once its terrifying melting power proliferated in the body, all the internal organs would be melted in an instant without a trace. Previously, Lin Dong had seen this kind of flames in the Nirvana burning sky array and he even subdued the flames. After that, Lin Dong was able to use the flames and put Lin Langqian in an unknown life or death situation. Thus, he knew everything about the destructive powers of the flames. It has finally arrived. Lin Dong muttered softly in his heart. Soon after, without saying anything unnecessary, he focused his mind and channeled out his yuan power, which completely engulfed that wisp of black-colored flame. As if it had sensed Lin Dong's action, that wisp of Nirvana demon flame started to act as well. With a sway of its body, its terrifying melting power started to extend outward swiftly. Immediately, the yuan power that engulfed it was melted with a visible speed. Troublesome thing. Upon seeing this, even though Lin Dong already prepared for it mentally, he still could not help but curse it. He then quickly channeled an even larger amount of yuan power and surrounded the Nirvana demon flame. No matter what, he could not let the melting power of the Nirvana demon flame extend to the vulnerable but important internal organs in his body. The only way to withstand something like the Nirvana demon flame was to make use of the vigor of yuan power and put out the flame by brute force. However, this method required an enormous exhaustion of yuan power. When individuals who had weak foundation tried to survive this Nirvana tribulation, due to their deficiency in yuan power, the Nirvana demon flame would wreak havoc in their bodies and ultimately cost them their lives. The foundation of Lin Dong's yuan power was rather strong. Therefore, it would not be too stressful for him when he used this method for quite a while. However, he clearly understood that there would not just be one wisp of Nirvana demon flame appearing in the third Nirvana tribulation. Otherwise, there would not be so many practitioners who had fallen at this stage. That frail wisp of Nirvana demon flame was engulfed by vigorous yuan power. No matter how much it released its melting power, it still could not break out of the yuan power. Instead, as it constantly released its melting power, it began to melt gradually till the point when it finally dissipated completely. Just as the wisp of Nirvana demon flame disappeared, Lin Dong's chest tightened up immediately. He knew that what coming next was the main highlight. Lin Dong's highly anticipated wait lasted for approximately half a minute before an activity was detected inside of his body. Speckles of black-colored glow extended mysteriously in his body. Finally, like a vast sky full of stars, these speckles of black glow materialized into hovering black flames. Upon witnessing such an amount, Lin Dong firmly heaved in a breath of cold air. Then, surging yuan power whizzed out of his dantian and engulfed those Nirvana demon flames with a terrifying speed before they could release their melting powers. Boom! At the moment when the flames were being engulfed by the yuan power, Lin Dong knew that an extremely arduous to-and-fro tussle was about to start. Horrifying melting powers were released in an intimidating amount. 1/10 of the yuan power in Lin Dong's body was melted within a few minutes' time. At this moment, the terrorizing aspect of the Nirvana demon flame was revealed gradually. Facing such a huge exhaustion of yuan power, Lin Dong's facial expression became somber. Luckily, he did not panic. He understood that if he panicked at this moment, it would be the end for him. While keeping his heart calm, Lin Dong systematically drew out a steady flow of yuan power from his dantian. He would immediately send the yuan power to whichever part of his body that could not resist the flames anymore. No matter what, he could not let these Nirvana demon flames injure the inside of his body. That was because it would be a fatal blow. Lin Dong's performance was rather good. However, the amount of Nirvana demon flames that appeared this time around was rather large, making it particularly difficult to deal with. That kind of powerless exhaustion made Lin Dong's eyebrows to involuntarily knit. Naturally, the Nirvana demon flames did not care about Lin Dong's emotions. They continued to burn ragingly and emit their terrorizing melting powers. It seemed that they had vowed not to give up until Lin Dong had been completely melted. In this kind of stalemate battle, Lin Dong's yuan power was melting rapidly. After about 10 minutes, approximately half of the yuan power in his body had already been depleted. However, these Nirvana demoni flames did not show any sign of disappearing. Instead, they were burning with increasing fervor. Upon seeing this, Lin Dong sighed deeply. With a jolt of his mind, boundless mental energy gushed out abruptly from his Niwen palace, which eventually replaced his yuan power. When his mental energy replaced the yuan power entrapping the Nirvana demon flames, Lin Dong's mind jolted again and a wave of devouring power was emitted. At this moment, the Nirvana chi from the surrounding heaven and earth surged swiftly into Lin Dong's body, replenishing the yuan power that had been exhausted. Lin Dong was different from other Nirvana practitioners. Not only did he possess a remarkable achievement in the mastery of his yuan power, he also had an extraordinary attainment in the mastery of his mental energy. He was proficient in both types of energy. If he was to use them concurrently, he could engage in an Overwatch battle with these Nirvana demon flames. This was one advantage that Lin Dong possessed. The turn for the better seemed to occur right now. Facing an Overwatch battle with the two types of energy, even the Nirvana demon flames would have to suffer. Some weaker wisps of Nirvana demon flames were already gradually showing signs of disappearing under such resistance. However, even though the situation seemed to change for the better, Lin Dong did not show signs of slacking off. As long as these Nirvana demon flames were not extinguished completely, they could still emit terrifying energy in an instant. Hence, there was no room for negligence. Under Lin Dong's impregnable defense, the Nirvana demon flames were becoming helpless gradually. Wisp by wisp, the dangerous Nirvana demon flames started to disappear one after another. When Lin Dong saw this, he finally heaved a sigh of relief. However, when he saw these Nirvana demon flames disappear, he felt that a tinge of regret. These Nirvana demon flames possessed powerful killing powers. Even a 3-UR Nirvana stage practitioner would be severely injured if his or her body was being infiltrated by these flames. Hence, if he could subdue them, it will be a powerful trump card in his hands. Subdue them? Lin Dong muttered to himself as he focused his attention on those mysterious and devilish black-colored flames. Lin Dong was clearly aware of the might of the Nirvana demon flame. This was something that even those experts who had stepped into the 3-UR Nirvana stage were extremely afraid of. If it was used appropriately, it could be considered quite a powerful killing weapon. Of course, everyone was aware of the power of the Nirvana demon flame. However, all of those who were experiencing the tribulation viewed it as a painful eyesore, and all of them begged for this thing to disappear with all their might. Most people did not possess the ability or the wild ambition to even think about subduing the Nirvana demon flame like Lin Dong did. Lin Dong was clearly someone who did things in a resolute and decisive fashion. After making up his mind, he ceased delaying any longer. A thought passed through his mind, and his majestic yuan power and mental energy appeared to have been completely activated at this moment. Buzz buzz. An enormous amount of energy buzzed within Lin Dong's body. They adopted numerous ring shapes like structures that wrapped around the Nirvana demon flame. After which, the flames were gathered towards a certain spot as though there were goats being chased. At this moment, the black-colored Nirvana demon flame was burning fiercely. However, this thing that was originally able to cause many people experiencing a tribulation to feel terrified of was currently showing signs of sluggishness. This was because Lin Dong's mental energy and yuan power had firmly wrapped around it. Regardless of how it emitted a thawing strength, it was still unable to charge out of this encirclement that could be described as terrifying. However, it was clearly an impossible task to merely rely on the yuan power and mental energy that Lin Dong had used to surround this Nirvana demon flame. The Nirvana demon flame was too fierce and brutal. Ordinary individuals would be unable to force it to summit. However, Lin Dong had clearly anticipated this kind of situation earlier. If the Nirvana demon flame was so simple to subdue, this thing would likely not be so rare. A strange humming sound suddenly sounded from within the tight encirclement. Immediately, a gentle white glow cut through the encirclement and rushed out. A great amount of warm white glow was suspended in front of the yuan power and mental energy, appearing like it was the Emperor. In the face of this light, even the wild and untamed Nirvana demon flame actually shrunk slightly. The white glow swelled and shrunk unpredictably. At a glance, one could see that there was an ancient stone talisman suspended within it. An indescribable feeling vaguely spread out from it. The only thing within Lin Dong's body that could subdue this Nirvana demon flame was naturally this mysterious ancient stone talisman. Even the current Lin Dong was unable to uncover all the mysteries of this stone talisman that had been in his hands for many years. Those various martial arts figures from back then were mostly useless for him. After all, the martial arts that he currently obtained were no longer ordinary ones. The creator of these martial arts were all renowned great individuals. Hence, the martial arts that they had spent a great effort to create was already at a level that even the stone talisman had difficulty improving. Lin Dong had tried uncovering some of the other abilities of the stone talisman. However, all of his attempts ultimately ended in failure. This was because each probing was just like sinking a rock into the ocean, and the stone talisman did not give him even the slightest response. This undoubtedly caused Lin Dong to feel a little dispirited. As more time passed, he could only allow nature to take its course. After all, this stone talisman was in his body. If he was to be in an extremely dangerous and critical moment, at the very least, the stone talisman would instinctively intervene. This would more or less reduce some of his problems. Under Lin Dong's control, the stone talisman was suspended in front of the cluster of Nirvana demon flame. Gentle rays of white glow swelled and shrunk. It might appear weak, but it was incomparably strong. Buzz. After the stone talisman was suspended for a moment, some threads of white-colored glow finally rushed out from it. They interlaced with one another and directly formed a large net that covered the Nirvana demon flame. The Nirvana demon flame was naturally unwilling to be captured when faced with these light net that were charging over. Immediately, a fire seedling wiggled. Its melting strength spread and melted the light net away. However, this melting clearly did not achieve a crushing weed-like easy effect. That pale white-colored light net might appear weak, but it did not move even under that melting strength. That manner was as though the Nirvana demon flame's melting ability was completely ineffective against it. The light net was immune to this melting strength. This had naturally greatly reduced the tactics of the Nirvana demon flame. The light net rushed over and immediately covered the Nirvana demon flame within it. After which, the Nirvana demon flame was unable to break free regardless of how it struggled. Crushing great pressure. Lin Dong's mind observed this particularly successful scene before he smiled. After which, a thought passed through his mind and the stone talisman rushed out. It directly appeared on the light net and a warm white glow was emitted. Under the scattering of this light, the originally wildly struggling Nirvana demon flame actually became strangely quiet. The ability of the stone talisman had once again exceeded Lin Dong's expectations. That Nirvana demon flame, which had gave him much headaches earlier on, had submitted obediently to him. This caused Lin Dong to involuntarily sigh quietly once again. This stone talisman was indeed mysterious. Gather. The stone greatly suppressed the Nirvana demon flame as the light net suddenly squeezed it wildly. Immediately, the Nirvana demon flame within it was pressured and began to swiftly shrink. Numerous wild and violent ripple was continuously scattered from it. However, in the face of the pressure from the stone talisman, it was impossible for it to spread. The Nirvana demon flame's size was becoming increasingly small. However, its color had become increasingly deep. Faintly, a destructive ripple surfaced from it. The large cluster of Nirvana demon flame began to disappear. Replacing it were 5 deep black-colored small points. A moment later, these points swelled a little before finally completely solidified into the size of a thumb. 5 thumb-sized black-colored beads were quietly suspended within the light net. They were completely silent, but they possessed an aura that caused one's heart to tremble. Those Nirvana demon flame earlier had actually been directly suppressed by Lin Dong into 5 fiery black beads. A joy surged up Lin Dong's heart when he saw these 5 thumb-sized unique black beads. After which, his tightly shut eyes slowly opened. He gripped with both of his fingers and a black bead appeared between them. These black beads that were formed from the agglomeration of the Nirvana demon flame were not hot. On the contrary, they were a little icy cold. However, Lin Dong was aware that once this small thing became rampant, it was likely sufficient to reduce a 3-yuan Nirvana stage expert into an extremely miserable state. This thing, let's call it Nirvana Fiery Thunder Bead. Lin Dong played with this black-colored bead. Despite suppressing all of the Nirvana demon flame in his body, he had only obtained 5 such Nirvana Fiery Thunder Bead. However, he believed that this thing would definitely help him out tremendously in the future. It is really a Nirvana tribulation with great reward. Lin Dong flicked his fingers and kept those Nirvana Fiery Thunder Beads into his body. After which, he stretched his lazy waist. Immediately, a crackling sound was emitted from all over his body. A powerful sensation that Lin Dong had never felt before spread across his entire body. Finally, it flowed within his body and galloped like floodwater, appearing forceful and strong. A satisfied smile slowly climbed onto Lin Dong's face. After 4 months of bitter training, his strength had similarly encountered an earth-shaking transformation. The current him was as different as the sky and the earth compared to when had just entered the ancient treasure trove. An expert who had endured through 3 Nirvana tribulation could definitely be considered an outstanding existence even in the entire ancient battlefield. Although there were definitely even more powerful people above him, Lin Dong was not afraid. Currently, He possessed many trump cards and he had difficulty finding a match amongst those 3 yuan Nirvana stage experts. Even those experts who had stepped into the 4 yuan Nirvana stage would likely find it difficult to defeat him. Lin Dong leaped up from the ancient training platform. He sensed the various activity within his body a little. Only after sensing that there was not the slightest unusual activity, did he raise his head and threw his gaze into the distant. An enormous light cocoon was suspending in mid-air a couple of 100 feet away from the Pill River. Black and white-colored glow lingered around it. A dense life and death aura was spreading apart, appearing to have developed into a ring of life and death. Currently, this light cocoon had undoubtedly swelled by dozens of times as compared to 4 months ago. Lin Dong was also able to sense the originally weak aura within it was growing stronger at a shockingly rapid pace. Most importantly, Lin Dong had begun to sense a genuine aura of the flesh from within that light cocoon. Little Martin had the body of a demonic spirit and definitely did not possess any flesh. However, such an aura had actually appeared within this light cocoon at this moment. It seemed that the effect of the samsara pill was really beginning to be unleashed. It should be soon. Lin Dong softly muttered to himself as he sensed the withering blood aura. Little Martin had already entered a deep retreat for 4 months. If nothing overly unexpected happened, it is likely that he would exit very soon. The little Martin that came out would be a genuine celestial demon Martin that stood at the top of the food chain in the demonic beast world. Lin Dong's heart was quite curious about the little Martin in that condition. This video will end here.